Another very common utilitarian ware that's found on basically all Euro-American archaeological sites of the 19th and 20th centuries is stoneware. Stoneware clay is different than the redware and yellowware that we've already mentioned in that it's fired at an extremely high temperature, 1180 to 1280 centigrade, and that results in a vitreous or semi-vitreous, non-porous body. It wouldn't have to be further treated to be waterproof, but it can be a little bit irregular on the surface, and so usually it's treated both on the exterior and the interior to allow for easier cleaning and just an improved appearance. Stoneware was actually developed in Germany and England. Stoneware is largely a utilitarian ware. It's best known for jugs and open crocks. Tends to be very heavy and thick-bodied, and that's in considerable contrast to some of the very, very fine early English stonewares that are almost eggshell thin. American stoneware is very heavy and thick. They had all kinds of uses: food storage, pickles, salt pork, even things like kerosene could be kept in stoneware jugs because of the impermeability of the body. The early ones are treated in two ways. The interiors are usually slipped with a clay wash, and that is in distinction to a true glaze. The earlier vessels are glazed on the outside by a process called salt glazing. This salt glazing imparts a shiny to matte finish that is notable by, it has sort of an orange peel texture. It's not perfectly smooth. The earlier vessels tended to be rounded shapes rather than cylindrical, more globular, if you will. These could be made by throwing on a wheel and building up by rings of clay. They were usually made in large quantities and fired in large quantities in a big beehive kind of kiln. The early ones have decorations, but the decorations are usually limited to simple scroll devices or floral or other things, or the manufacturer's name perhaps, or the size in gallons, like a 5, in a dark cobalt blue color. And there aren't too many other colors used on the decorations of the early and mid-19th century salt glazed stoneware. As the 19th century went along, the shapes tended to change from these kind of curving jug forms to more cylindrical shapes, and the crocks became very simple in form. Even the jugs were largely cylindrical, although the top would obviously curve in to form a more narrow opening that could be corked. Another change was that salt glazing, which is a difficult, I think very dangerous process in terms of the vapors that come from it, began to be replaced by an exterior treatment that's usually called Bristol slipped, where a more light blonde tan colored wash was applied to the vessels, and the vessels were also lead glazed. Those vessels lack the kinds of irregular orange peel kind of character, and you can pretty readily tell the difference between a Bristol slip exterior, lead glazed exterior from the earlier salt glazed. There are chronological implications to that. The Bristol treatment is later, usually after the Civil War, for example.